Hello governors and welcome to a brand new series. It's called Tier List Tuesdays, where I post a video of me ranking things on a tier list, from topics involving games that I love to play to random things because why the hell not? Will this be a weekly thing? I hope so. Also, since I live in Australia, anyone who lives in most time zones would probably see my vids get posted on Monday. Oh well, enjoy the show! So we all know that survivor gameplay in Dead by Daylight is quite simplistic. You help save your teammates, loop the killer around the map, and repair generators to power the gates and make your getaway. But the main outlier in this is the gen repair. Now, in a gameplay perspective, it's quite easy. You sit there watching a bar slowly progress as the occasional skill check appears to keep it constant. And you can also use toolboxes with good add-ons or perks that can aid in your repairs. But in real life, that's not the case. You need an actual understanding of mechanics and the right tools. I can't just walk into an auto shop and say, let me fix that diesel generator. So put on your hard hats and grab your clipboards, it's time to rank every survivor on how qualified they are in generator mechanics.
Okay, and here we are at the tier list. So we have our 5 tiers, that's qualified mechanic, previous job coincides, training required, apprenticeship only, and company will go down. And I'm mainly basing this off of either their lore or maybe some of the work they've done before. It really depends. So firstly we have Dwight Fairfield, our resident logger boy. So this one was a little tricky in my mind because going through all the jobs that he's worked as in the past, obviously pizza delivery boy, cash register, and the office worker, but also it mentions that he's worked as a petrol station worker and a mechanic, but the mechanic one is a bit confusing for me because it might be another situation of lore where it's like the multiverse, as always, because there's another version of Dwight that's apparently a king. So, in that aspect, if we were to think of the mechanic side was true, then he'd be a qualified mechanic. But in this situation, just for the sake of simplicity, he's in training required. Next is Meg Thomas, our resident runner and sandbagger of the survivors. Honestly, she's fairly young, but she's probably past the adult age, so she would probably be around training required. She doesn't really have any background when it comes to that kind of stuff, so she wouldn't be the best at fixing generators. Next is Claudette, and this is training required as well. For someone who's a skilled botanist, botany has nothing to do with mechanics, so she would definitely need the training, but considering how she graduated university at the age of 19, as per her law, she'd probably be able to study how to fix generators and mechanics and stuff, but it really depends on her physical work, because botany is less physical, more mental, I think. Don't quote me on that. Next is Jake Park, our least favorite of the behavior. Yeah, let's go with that. Company will go down. The reason being is because it states in his law that he gave up anything and that's like modern. So pretty much it states that no electricity, well, sort of, no Wi-Fi, no bank account, none of that. And it also states that he only sends letters via postage to his mother, meaning that he's given up any technology and modern era equivalent and stuff. So he is definitely not qualified. He's essentially a hobo living in the woods. You would not hire that kind of person. Next is Nia Carlson, and this one's a bit of an interesting one because considering she's like similar to Jake, except she's more of the urban style uh, hobo, so to speak, compared to Jake being a more rural type. Considering that he's in the woods, but she's in an urban area, albeit though I don't know if she's necessarily homeless. I mean, he's not homeless, but I ignore what I said. But with the Nia, I'd say that she's probably maybe training required in the high end, mainly because of the fact that she's a street artist, so she's not necessarily going to have any knowledge of actual mechanics and stuff, but because she's lived on her life in urban areas and running away from police and stuff, she'd probably know a thing or two about maybe some mechanics. Maybe, I don't know. She mainly rides a skateboard, so it's not necessarily that mechanical, but other than that, she'd probably have a better chance than the other three. Laurie Strode, apprenticeship only. Now, technically, all the survivors that are supposed to be underage are aged up to 18, but in my opinion, I think 18 years old has to be around the apprenticeship stage. They can't be that kind of like regular job training, so they have to go through the apprenticeship first. That's just my opinion. That's why Laurie is one of the younger characters. She has to be in the apprenticeship only section. Ace. This one probably would be probably company will go down mainly because of the fact that he's not very trustworthy, considering the fact that he's been chased by a lot of debt collectors. He's pretty much living a risky life. He's probably going to cause some problems in the company and eventually send it downwards into a spiral. But that's just mainly of a personality point of view, not realistically a skill point of view, but either way, he's probably going to ruin any sort of auto shop that hires him. Bill Overbeck, qualified mechanic. There's actually a good reason. Now, obviously, there's the fact that he is a person of many experiences. He fought in Vietnam. He's had lots of extensive military training, which they could have some mechanical background. Depends on which sector you're in. Don't quote me on that. But there is a campaign in Left 4 Dead 2 where they have to try and power generators to open up a bridge so they can escape. However, one of them breaks down, so he jumps off the bridge to go run and fix the generator, which helps save Lewis, Francis, and Zoe, but he ends up sacrificing his life for it. The fact that he does it obviously shows that he knows how the mechanics of a generator works. Now, obviously, the entire campaign can depend on who actually jumps off the bridge and fixes it. Anyone can do it, but in the actual lore itself, Bill is the one that sacrifices himself to help the others and ends up dying to the zombies, or in this case, goes to the entity's realm in Dead by Daylight lore. Feng Min, she would be probably previous job coincides. Considering the fact that she is a gamer at heart, she knows technology very well. However, it's not that similar, not that like different. I mean, to mechanics. However, like her style is more so towards like static technology, like PCs, tablets, phones, those kind of things. I would assume. Whereas mechanics is more so like the diesel generators that you see on the map and all that stuff. But I feel like she would have very good knowledge when it comes to technology as well. David King, training required. Yeah, he's quite a strong guy. He'd be very fitting for some of the physical aspects of the actual mechanics job. However, he isn't like skilled in that sense that he knows the knowledge, but so he'd need the training. But he'd probably be like the best candidate as of now for the training required section. Next is Quentin, apprenticeship only. He's a high school student. Definitely needs an apprenticeship. Tap, training required. It never. I had to Google a lot of this research for myself, but Tap never mentions anything about doing any mechanics at all. He just works as a homicide detective, so he more so focuses on like the paperwork and the searching. Less to do with mechanics, but he might have some mechanical expertise when it comes to disarming traps. Excuse me. But other than that, he doesn't really have much background and that kind of stuff. Kate Denson, definitely training required. She's a musician. She does music. She doesn't actually do any sort of mechanics at all. Same with Adam. However, I feel like because he's a teacher and very studious, he will probably be able to understand learning and get a lot closer compared to other characters as well. Then we got Jeff. Training required, albeit though, like he probably wouldn't do this if I'm going to be honest. Being an artist is very different in being compared to being a mechanic, but if he was planning on getting that job, he definitely needs training. Jane, I would say training required, especially considering the fact that like her background has nothing to do with mechanics. She's just a figure head, so to speak, because she's a talk show host. So not necessarily working the actual ropes. She's just being there to be her personality. Ash, company will go down. Never trust Ash with any of this kind of stuff, considering the fact that in his lore he only entered the entity's realm because he messed up reading an incantation, exploded a toilet, and got sent to the entity's realm. I wouldn't even trust Ash with anything, if I'm going to be honest. I love Ash Williams as a character, but he's not trustworthy in these kinds of things. That's why Pablo made his hand. He had a wooden hand before Pablo got involved. Nancy and Steve are both apprenticeship only. They're still high school students, so not gonna be doing regular work. They have to go through the apprenticeship phase. Yui Kimura, qualified mechanic. She's a motorist at heart. She's been studying motor vehicles since like at a very young age. She has her own uh, motorcycle that she tinkers with herself, and she learnt under her grandfather. I think it was her grandfather, so she definitely knows her stuff. So with that, she's obviously one of the most qualified when it comes to skills. Zarina, I would say previous job coincides because even yes, she's a reporter, but she's the kind of reporter that does a lot more dangerous stuff. So she would have knowledge in things like weaponry, traps, and all that stuff. And she would definitely know mechanics, especially considering the fact that she's very good at breaking into high security firms to be able to get the story. It's one of those like really good reporters. Cheryl, apprenticeship only. She is one of the younger characters. Surprise, surprise. Felix Richter, previous job coincides. He's an architect, so he would definitely know some things about mechanics, considering the fact that that is something you need to take into account when it comes to like creating the schematics of an actual building itself, because you need to know where the right locations for like electricity, water, all that stuff. So you would definitely know a thing or two. Elodie, training required. She's a treasure hunter. She spends more of her time like going out and being like Indiana Jones esque style character. Yunjin, I'd say training required, mainly because of the fact that like she doesn't do regular mechanics. She's a producer, music producer, so she just only works one type of machine. Or I think that's one type of machine. Jill Valentine, previous job coincides. From what I know, she's a bomb squad diffuser, so she would definitely know a thing or two about the actual uh, the actual mechanics, I guess. But I don't know how similar it would be, but that's something that she would definitely know how to do. Leon, same thing. They probably have like some sort of mechanic studying in or training in those like agent related jobs, but like I don't know the full extent of it, so I'm not 100% sure, but it would probably coincide. Michaela, training required. She's a witch, sort of, but she's also a barista. I don't know, really depends. Jono is definitely previous job coincides. He works for the CIA. He definitely knows a thing or two. He's a mathematician, but he probably doesn't work in that much of the mechanical department. Yoichi, training required. He's a marine biologist. They don't really work on the machines, they just use the machines. So he probably wouldn't be able to like work a generator by himself. Harika, she would probably be previous job coincide. She works with a lot of technology, so she'd probably know a thing or two, but it's not directly related to the mechanics of a generator exactly, but she knows her technology fairly well. Ada Wong would probably be in qualified mechanic, if I'm going to be honest. She does have a lot of background in hacking into firmware and breaking into areas, in shutting down like actual machinery and security systems. She would definitely know a thing or two about mechanics. Rebecca, training required. Well, I did say earlier that the agent's job probably would be able to gain like mechanical training because her department was in the medic field. They probably wouldn't have as much, if not any, mechanic training. So that's why I think she'd be training required. Vittorio, company will go down. I know it states that he's been around, the entity's around for centuries, but he's still a man from the 1600s. He wouldn't know how a generator would work. I feel like if you gave him a Dorito, he would die. Talita and Renato would be in training required. They don't necessarily have any of the skills in mechanics. Uh, they are kite flyers as a career, so they wouldn't necessarily be that kind of mechanics, but they'd probably be able to learn. Gabriel is definitely a qualified mechanic. He's an engineer, albeit from the future, but he definitely knows his mechanics for sure. Nicholas Cage, training required. I looked it up. He has no mechanical training whatsoever. Go figure. He is an actor. Ellen Ripley, definitely qualified mechanic. She works in space as a lieutenant in the Marine Corps, I believe it is. It's been a while since I watched Alien, but she definitely knows a thing or two, considering the fact that she used a lot of machinery to beat the xenomorph. Alan Wake, training required. He definitely needs to get the training because he's a skilled writer, not really a skilled mechanic. However, if from what I know about Alan Wake lore, he could probably just type in his typewriter and just fix any gen, if I'm going to be honest. Sable, training required again. She doesn't show any sort of sign of qualifications whatsoever. The Baymare and Astri company will go down. They are known for music and trickery, not mechanics. They're from a world that doesn't have generators. It wouldn't make much sense. Lara Croft, well, she is a treasure hunter like Elodie, but I feel like she would know more about mechanics considering the fact that she does know how to utilize like cars and helicopters and all that stuff. So she'd probably know a thing or two for sure. That's just my theory anyway. Trevor, company will go down. He's from Wallachia, which is the old name for, I think it was Romania. I could be wrong, but he definitely wouldn't know anything about mechanics in that day and age. Jonathan Byers is also apprenticeship only. I say training required for Lisa. Civil, I don't know if police officers necessarily have mechanical training, but I would say they would probably need training required. Same goes for Maria and James Sunderland. They never really outstated that he has any training in mechanics or hers. Claire Redfield probably training required as well, because she's less so of a mechanical person, more so a environmental person, I guess, considering her job. Sheva, she probably might have some correlations with mechanics in her field, and same goes for Chris as well. He's been probably on the job in BSAA for a lot longer compared to Jill, so that's my understanding. And so would Carlos as well. Umbrella would probably have a lot of mechanical stuff involved. Uh, Tubarão, I actually don't know much about Rainbow Six Siege, so from the quick Google search that I've done, I assume that he probably have some coincides with it, considering the fact that he utilizes a lot of weaponry and stuff and mechanical objects. So I'm assuming this is just my theory anyway. Saga, she'd probably be knowing some mechanical stuff maybe because FBI training, there'd probably be some mechanical stuff involved for sure. Uh, then we have Marigold, Rose Marigold, whatever her name was. Waitress needs training. Rain, I don't know. I've never actually watched Romulus, but from what I know, she'd probably be qualified considering the fact that she's in space. She would probably need to be able to know some mechanical stuff. Then there's Soma and Alucard. They company will go down, and I just realized that I'm missing something, so let me just quickly fix that. There we go, fixed it. So we have Tori Kane added because this list didn't have Tori Kane involved, but she probably have training required mainly because of the fact that she works as a cultist. I just don't know exactly if they would do any mechanical stuff to my knowledge, but most likely not. They're doing sacrifices and bidding to a god. So all in all, she'd probably be in training required. But that's the list. There we go.
And that's my tier list. Let me know what you guys think, and if there are any changes you would make, let me know in the comments down below. With that being said, I will see you next time. Cheerio, everyone.